fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, caliente, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, it's hot, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, hot, fuego, caliente, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, caliente, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, caliente, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, it's hot, beans itching with the ticks, I can get your arithmetics, John Wick with the stick.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Nick and Truth, your political hip-hop outlet. I'm Jimmy the Square Guy, the one to talk fly to you for the lie to you. We got a good, interesting show today. It consists of some crazy things, but some powerful impactful things. And first, let me say this, man. R.I.P. to everybody know Nipsey Hussle situation. Sad situation. And there's some crazy stuff surrounding what really happened to him, but hey man, this thing got to stop. Whether you're a superstar, a 9-to-5 guy, or whatever, this black on black crime stuff needs to stop. So, today we got Mr. Dennis Spurling in the house with me today. He's the guy that got a book, Rules to Live By,
Right.
Volume 1, How to Maintain Peace and Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World. Woo, man. That title alone says we all need to read this book.
Yes, sir.
Everybody got to get a copy of this book here, man. All this conflict going on and everybody's stressing about it. But, you know, before we go into our guests, we normally do the TNT for the day, which I'm going to bypass that, but I do have a topic for the day. And my topic is, you heard the show Alpha Female. And this thing is just really is tail spinning. So my question is, which was asked to me, if a woman or the initiator of the date, are they required to pay for it?
Oh, that's for me.
No. I'm asking them, but I'm gonna give you a chance to elaborate on it.
Man.
But is the initiator of the date required to pay for it? And what I mean by that is, you may be going to the grocery store, you and your female friend or girlfriend or your significant other, and they may say, I'm hungry, let's go get some meat. But when you get there, they expect you to pay for it. And if you don't, you're a cheap date, you sorry, you selfish, inconsiderate. You're not a man. A man will pay for a woman's meal. So is the initiator of the date required to pay for it? So that's our topic for the day. And you know, we got the phone lines, 832-649-8406. We want to hear y'all input on it. Is the initiator of the date required to pay for the date?
Man, you're going to start some trouble in here.
Man, that's what I do over here, man. I start trouble, man. That's all I know, bro. So right now, we going, straight into our interview, because I think he needs all the time I have. I read majority of this book, enough of this book to say it's a must-go-get book. So we going right into it now. Mr. Dennis Spurling, Rules to Live By, How to Maintain a Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World. Mr. Spurling, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing all right, brother. And I'm getting you live over here because I want my people on all over the world to check you out, man, because I'm already feeling your style up in here, man.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
You got it going on up in here.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to create me a time clock.
Oh, I feel you.
I'm tired of punching everybody else.
Hey, ain't that the truth?
Try to create it. So far I'm on the right path.
Yes, sir.
Man, say hi to my audience, man.
What's up, everybody? This is Dennis Spurling. Some of you all know me from Facebook. Other people might know me from my television show, Co-Parenting with the Spurlings. It's aired on CW 39 for the past 2 years. And, other people know me from hip-hop. I have 5 albums produced with Beans and Cornbread. And
I heard the latest one.
Yeah.
That's that Caribbean.
That Coffee King.
Oh, man, I like that.
That's that. I'm tired. I'm gonna put this in the radio. Put this in the dashboard on my way home. I don't want to hear all that loud stuff. I just want to chill.
Some laid back too.
That's me, man. That's that Caribbean part of me. That's that heritage right there.
And where are you actually from?
I'm from LA, born and raised in South Central Los Angeles.
And okay, but where's your roots?
I was born and raised in LA, man, but the thing is, as far as my heritage.
Yeah, that's what I should have said you here.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool. I understand what you're saying. As far as my heritage, my father's an immigrant from the Caribbean, but I just met him about 7 years ago. Now, ironically, my entire life I knew that this was my father. Well, at least up until the age of 10, I was alerted that this was my father. I just met him about 7 years ago.
Okay.
But up until that point, I was raised by my adopted father, who's also an attorney here in Houston. So, you know, man, but between here and LA, this is kind of my roots. So Houston is like my second home. You know.
Well, welcome home, man.
All right.
Welcome home.
Yeah, man.
Okay, man, everybody got a manual.
Yeah.
Everybody have a manual. Chicken soup manual.
That's right.
Marriage manual.
Yeah.
But you say rules to live by.
That's right.
How to maintain a peaceful mind and happiness in conflict the world.
Yeah. So, about 2010, 2011, after my divorce was finalized. Right. That's it. Married this beautiful woman from New Orleans. Nothing wrong with it. Perfect. Straight from the Ninth Ward. Hard. Straight. Beautiful. Nothing bad to say about it at all.
Just stop. Before you go any further, stop. Before you go any further, cut it, stop, bag up, quit.
But after the divorce.
That's rare, bro.
What?
For somebody to speak that highly
of
an ex-wife.
Because the lawyers are probably listening, so I'm not going to say nothing bad at all.
Man, I see you differently already, bro.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man.
Well, it makes no sense for me to talk bad about my child's mother or my ex-wife because that only reflects on me. That was my choice.
Wow.
You see?
Y'all brothers hear that?
Yeah, and I actually talk about that topic in my book, Rules to Live By. See, rules to live by is a way of thinking so that you begin to be able to resolve those conflicts that keep you up at night. Whether it's physical conflict, emotional conflict, spiritual conflict, intellectual conflict, I give you a guide so that you can get to the path of peace of mind and happiness. Otherwise, you're living in hell. You see? And
so hell is a state of mind.
Hell is right here on earth. There's some people living in heaven, and there's some people living in hell, and they could be standing next to each other. It doesn't matter your age, your race, how much money you have, because there are wealthy people who committed suicide, who killed themselves.
I saw that.
You see, and then there are poor people who, I know folks now, they live in South America, man, you think they're eating eggs and boiled bananas, and they're just as happy as they want to be. But then you got multimillionaires living in New York stressed out because life is just hard for them. And so it doesn't matter money, race, age, sex. What matters is where you are mentally, and have you, as I describe in my book, accepted your truth, and are you on the path of peace? Are you on the path of peace of mind and happiness? Now, by trade, I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law for almost 20 years now. By education, I'm a biologist. I was working on a dual PhD program at Texas Southern and also a master's degree in biology, but I also have my JD. And so I have the degrees. But what I didn't have was peace of mind and happiness. You understand? I got the houses, I got the money, I got the cars, I got everything they said. Everything.
Peace of mind and happiness.
Man. And then I looked up and I said, I'm not happy. And this was in 2011. So I had to ask myself, why is it that I did everything they said I'm supposed to do, but I don't have peace of mind and happiness?
Wow.
I was 100 pounds overweight. I was drinking every day. I was going to the clubs on Richmond. You see what I'm saying? Looking for it. That's why my marriage failed. And so I'm man enough to say that. And see, when you begin to accept fault for yourself and accept this truth, then you can start digging deeper and ask yourself, what is the real issue? And so the more layers I dig, the more layers I got through, I realized this is my truth. This is where it all comes from. Let me fix this.
Okay, I had to jump so far.
No, man,
since you said that, you had some of that book that I had to ask you about.
Talk to me.
You say you are who they think you are.
Right.
rather than you saying you are who you think you are.
Right.
You say you are who they think you are.
You are who they think you are.
And even though you haven't peeled back those layers
Mm-hmm.
and realized who you are, you saying people can still see who you are?
I'm telling you that instead of fighting with people,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get them to accept you for who you think you are,
Mm-hmm.
use that information they're giving you as a barometer to say, well, if this is who they appear to be, this is who I am. Now, what do I need to do to get from this point to who I want to be? As opposed to pretending in my mind that I'm someone else when everybody else sees me as this. If you are a duck and you think you are a platypus, it doesn't matter because everybody else sees you as a duck.
Mm-hmm.
So you are a duck. So stop acting like a platypus, be the duck, and then go from being the duck to the platypus if possible.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? See, that helps you resolve that conflict
Within.
within. So you can get out of that hell. So accept that truth and let's move on. You understand what I'm saying? And see, until we actually do that, we'll never have peace of mind and happiness. We'll always be living in this hellish state in our minds, and that's just one of those rules. Now, the thing about my book is, or my 3-part book, Rules to Live By, which is on Amazon, is I'm not just making this up. Because there are biblical references following each chapter and each rule that support what I'm saying.
And I want to ask you this question. I saw a lot of biblical support in here.
Yeah.
You're a Christian.
I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and I believe that there's God. You can define it as Christian, but Jesus didn't define himself as a Christian. He just said, I am the Lord and Savior.
Beautifully put. So the Bible is your final say so.
The Bible is a guide
Mm-hmm.
put together about 2,000 or 3,000 years ago from a conglomeration of stories that explain to us the human condition. And what I do by adding my stories on top of that is explaining to you in urban terms, modern terms, that the human condition has not changed. So it allows you to relate to it. It allows you to be able to look at this Bible in a new light and say, man, this is some wisdom here.
Yeah.
It allows you to look at these rules, to live by these universal rules of life that have not changed and say, I understand what this man is talking about. And on top of that, he gave me a biblical verse. So when you're talking to grandma, you can say, look, grandma, you might not believe this dude, but here's a biblical verse that kind of explains to me. He's explaining it to me and so this, and I understand.
The scripture you using, you bringing the teaching out of it.
Right.
That we can, so it shows you how it applies to 2019.
Something that Pookie and Ray Ray can understand.
And that's what we need. Because a lot of times we go to church and what Reverend such and such is saying, he's not making that connection.
No.
He's being relevant, but we can't make the connection with, like you say, Pookie and Ray Ray.
Right. I'm not in no way do I say I'm a biblical scholar. What I am is a person who observes, and I come from I'm an attorney, but I come from a science background. And I'm talking heavy science. I was working on a PhD in environmental molecular toxicology. So I see
Man,
things.
they don't understand them $14 words you just used. No, I'm just playing with you.
Yeah, man. But that's where my mind is. And so I look at things from that analytical standpoint, and then you add on the attorney thing and the train. I'm not just any attorney. I'm a trial lawyer. Like, I have to take complicated issues and break it down for regular people to be able to understand.
Yeah.
So in that being the case, this book is these set of books are a very long brief. You see what I mean? Made so that the average person can understand. And I truly believe that these are inspired by God. I truly believe that me sitting there, because all wisdom comes from God.
True.
And so me sitting there for 7 years at my office every day, from 2011 on, was inspired by God to do this because, remember, it started off, I just was trying to figure out where did I go wrong. I got everything, I'm still not happy, I got the degrees, I got the house, what happened? And so what I began is I started the journey. I started from where I was, why my relationship with my wife failed. And then I went all the way back to my family history beginning in Mississippi. And I talk about my uncles, my great uncles and my grandfather, and all the conflict that they had to deal with. And see, the reason that's important because those men and women taught my mother and my uncles who had that influence on me, and so they taught me how to resolve conflict and how to see issues. And so then I carried that on through my life, and then I realized, okay, this was okay, that was wrong, this was okay. And so I began to figure out these rules to live by, and why I was able to make it despite how I was raised in my upbringing. You see what I mean? Because see, some of us, we give credit to, for example, we give credit to our mothers for all that they've done. But some of us have to accept the fact that we survived our mothers.
And let me ask you something real quick.
Talk to me.
Someone just asked, is there anything in your book about Muslims and Jews that applies to them?
There's a chapter in volume 2 of my book, which explains that actually I think it's volume 3, and it explains that in that conflict there can be no resolution. One of those groups is going to have to be annihilated, and that's just it.
Well,
because
I think more of his question was: is there any rules to live by in your book concerning Muslims?
I do talk about Islam, and I talk about Islam from, and you got to understand, I'm coming from a black man's perspective. So the Islam that I talk about is the Nation of Islam, because that was my first introduction to Islam through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, or actually Elijah Muhammad and his students, Malcolm X, Farrakhan. And I go through a long discussion of how that influenced me. And I want to say that Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has influenced so many millions. And there's a story in the book, in volume 1, where I talk about how at some point in my life, I was with one of my homeboys who was a dope dealer. And this is right after I got accepted to college. And I was trying to hustle and get some money for the summer. But when I was with the homie, and the homie had to work, I said, man, let's turn around. I'm cool. And the reason I said that was because I was hearing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's voice telling me, this is destroying our people. This is killing our people. I was thinking about all the babies I'd seen born without fingers. And so because of that, I couldn't go through it. So I, in that instance, made a life-changing decision not to go down that moral path. That path, which even right now bothers people. There are many men who've done things in their life.
No, you speak about doing things that destroys your people.
Yeah.
What do you think about that black on black crime that's happening in where you from, LA? That Nipsey Hussle thing. Because I know that's destroying our people more than anything.
I heard about it yesterday afternoon, and it was something that touched me, because, and I relay these stories, everything I'm talking about is laid out in these books, but I've lost several friends to unwarranted murder. And these murders have taken place at the hands of people that look like them. My last friend, my best friend from college, I lost him in 2012. His name was Achilles Stewart, and he got shot in Atlanta. He was from California, but he moved out to Atlanta for a better life. He got shot by two young boys, 20, 21 years old, $300 they robbed. And that hurt me. That sent me on a path that, because I thought I stopped losing homies. You see what I mean? I'm older now. I mean, I'm 30, so I ain't losing no more homies. That's something that happened when you're in teenager and 20s. Still losing them. So the situation with Nipsey Hussle, and fortunately or unfortunately, I'm still a person that is connected to a lot of people who are in the streets in Los Angeles, as you would call it. And so I found out the story very early, and I put a post up because, you know, last night there were people saying, "Oh, this is a conspiracy. It's you know, the white man is trying to kill us." And you know, I looked at that and it's like, this is us not being willing to accept our truth. And our truth is that we're killing ourselves. Our truth is we do the damage that the KKK could never do. Our truth is that we kill more of our own people than the police ever would be able to get away with, without going bankrupt behind the lawsuits that will follow. We do that. And so until we accept that and stop shifting blame also off on other people, we're not going to change. Nipsey Hussle is from a gang in Los Angeles, or was, depending on how you want to look at it. And, you know, his final resting place was about a mile away from where I grew up. So I know the area very well. I talk about black on black crime, and I even go back to my ancestors in Mississippi who used to kill.
And let me add this for you.
So there's nothing new to it.
Let me add this for you from. So many people, if y'all haven't heard, think that he was killed behind attempting to make a documentary about, what was the doctor's name?
Dr. Seeley.
Dr. Seeley.
Yeah.
Dr. Seeley is a man who claims to have a cure for AIDS and a cure for cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the scientific world is not trying to hear.
They already have a cure for AIDS.
Mm-hmm. I believe they do.
They got it. Well, I'm telling you, they have a cure for AIDS, and it's known now. It's a certain genetic defect in certain people
Mm-hmm.
that prohibits them from being able to even catch AIDS. So
Mm-hmm.
now what's happening is they're injecting that in other people, so they're curing AIDS. I'm telling you, like, and this
Mm-hmm.
is something that happened. That I think they call it patient 1 and then patient 2, and then they also have cures for cancer. But it wouldn't matter if he made a documentary or not. It doesn't matter, because most of you folks on here wouldn't even listen to it. They wouldn't watch it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that important. The man was killed by another black man. Matter of fact, I got a picture of the man that killed him.
Mm-hmm.
I was hearing this. I got the word last night who it was, what happened, and the story. And so as I'm looking at people say, oh no, this is a conspiracy, I'm saying that's just a cop-out. Y'all doing that because y'all don't want to accept responsibility for the fact that we killed him. It's our toxic culture that killed him. It's us that did that. And that's one of those truths that I address in this book. And until you address that truth, until you accept the fact that we are the ones that are responsible for our own demise and our own destruction, then you're not going to be able to change. You're not going to change. Because you're going to be constantly blaming someone. Why would I change if it's somebody else's fault? If I'm perfect and I haven't done anything wrong, I'm not going to change. Are you?
So true.
Haven't you had that conversation with your old lady before? You can't tell her she's not accepting fault. Well, she's not going to change then. She's not going to grow.
Not what she think is you.
No, not what she think is you. No, absolutely not. People don't grow unless
they recognize
that there's an issue. But see, it's difficult for people to do that.
So let me ask you this here.
Yeah.
Because in rules to live by, I think one of the things that you mentioned or has to take place in your growth, that what do you mean? Explain to me what you mean by you have to separate yourself from your emotions.
Separating yourself from your emotions means that you can't either you control your emotions or your emotions will control you.
Bingo.
You have to separate yourself from your emotions, because if you don't, you will do things that are illogical. You will do things that can hurt you. You will buy things that you shouldn't buy. You will stay around people that you shouldn't be around. You will stay with a job that you shouldn't have. You will buy a car that you shouldn't have. Because the ultimate thing, and one of the conclusions we come to, or I come to at the end of the book in the spiritual section, is what the master teachers, Jesus, Muhammad, all of them were trying to explain to us, is that desire is the source of all of these disturbances that we have. All of this conflict, it comes from desire. So you have to absence yourself from desire. And so in the first book, that's the first level. See, the book is written in levels. And by the time you get to chapter or volume 3, then you say, oh, okay, I understand what he's saying. He's saying that I have to first begin to separate myself from my emotions so that I can not put myself in these traps. Because see, there are people that we choose to be around. There are jobs and cars and houses that we want to have that we can't afford, that's disturbing our peace of mind and happiness.
And we have a desire for them. We go out and do things that create all kinds of problems for us.
Exactly.
Financial burden, falling debt.
Exactly.
Stress to keep it up. I have 2 jobs to maintain it.
Right.
Yeah.
And on a physical level, I stepped on your shoe. I looked at you the wrong way. And so now you're angry. So what you do at that point is you separate yourself from your emotions and say, is it logical for me to be angry with this brother because he looked at me 2 seconds too long? Is it logical for me to be angry with this brother because he stepped on my shoes? Should I kill him for that? Should I allow myself to be that enraged? Is it logical for me to be this happy right now because somebody gave me an extra $20 in my paycheck? Probably not. You're tricking yourself. You see, and it's not just, we don't want to just deal with the anger and the rage we want to also deal with the happiness and the other things that we consider good emotions. But at some point, you have to separate yourself from your emotions and think logically, because it's a woman that can make you feel real good.
And that's one make you feel very, very bad too.
You see what I'm saying?
I know some women make you feel that small.
Yeah, and that one that make you feel bad might be better for you than the one that makes you feel good. So you have to separate yourself from your emotions and think about it. That's what that rule is about.
Cool. And
there's a biblical verse to support that.
What is it?
It's in there.
No, I want to do it with you today. But okay, and what do you mean by when conflict arises, be the first to strike?
What I mean is that if conflict is imminent and you know it's going to come, there's no escaping it. What you want to do as a person who is a strategist is you want to be able to pick the location and the time. And I think you're talking about the story that I talk about, Fat Terrell. Fat Terrell was a guy I went to school with in the 4th grade. Fat Terrell told me, and I was new. I was just coming back from Texas, so I was like the Texas dude, and they were all in South Central. And this is kind of the introduction to the crowd is introduced to LA gang culture. Pretty much every kid in the schoolyard was claiming whatever set they was from. And so Fat Terrell, trying to make a reputation for himself, picking on me, he called me out. I remember the day. And so I said, all right. So I wasn't going to wait around for him to catch me slipping. I was going to pick the time, the location in which I was going to get him, because I know Fat Terrell's reputation is going to happen. So I'm going to catch him when he's not ready. I'm going to catch him at my time. So I was leaving school, and me and my homeboy, Shantae, who I had fought before, but we were cool, because, kids know you fight, you cool, whatever. It's normal kids, but still, it's still that gang culture. Yeah. So I saw Fat Terrell across the schoolyard as I was leaving, so I took off running at him. And what that did was it froze him and the guy that was with him, because he like, it's 2 of them coming, it's 2 of us, are we going to have to fight? And he wasn't ready for that fight. So what I ended up doing is, he started trying to take his shirt off, I hit him with a 2-piece, hit him with another 2-piece, fight broke up, whatever. That's the schoolyard lesson. Now fast forward to the lawyer, Dennis Spurling. I had a train wreck case that happened. I settled the case. I had some help from another attorney. The other attorney helped me settle the case. I sent her portion, which is 1/3 of the attorney's fee. And then she, about 6 months later, she sent me a letter saying, oh no, I want 80% of the attorney's fee. And I'm like, no. But I looked at the contract, and clearly this is what this contract said. And I'm like, what? So I knew she was going to sue me. Now this lawyer happened to live in a small town in Louisiana. The accident happened in New Orleans. I knew it was going to happen. I used to work in New Orleans. I know the people in New Orleans. I've litigated cases in New Orleans. I know New Orleans. I know the judges in New Orleans. So instead of waiting for her to sue me in her hometown, I went and filed suit in New Orleans.
First to strike.
First to strike. So what did I do? And this is principles from Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu say, you know your enemy, you know what they're gonna do. You understand the land, you understand the location, you understand the weather, you know where your food supplies are. You pretty much you can predict the outcome of this fight. And just as I predicted, once I filed suit there, and I told her, look, you're gonna have to forfeit your entire fee and give it to my client, because you didn't do anything. You never actually even enrolled in the case. So, the judge is going to look at it like, yeah, you lady, give the money to this poor girl who's from New Orleans and this guy who I actually know who's been here in New Orleans before. I don't know you. You see? And so she said, her lawyer, the other attorney had to hire a lawyer. And about 2 weeks after I filed a lawsuit, she said, look, you take what you got, I take what I got. I'm like, fine. That's what I want to do in the first place. You see? So be the first to strike. If you know that a conflict is imminent, be the first to strike. So from Fat Terrell, to litigating high volume, high stress cases, the principle still applies.
Question, have you seen Fat Terrell since y'all been up?
I actually did see Fat Terrell. I was
in, talk about that whooping.
I was in law school. I think I was in my 3rd year of law school. And I was at the Slauson Swap meet in New Orleans, in LA, and this goes a little bit more about LA gang culture. Decades can go by, you still got beef. So I saw Fat Terrell. He was from here, maybe 100 yards away in the Slauson Swap meet, and I saw him. He's still Fat Terrell. I'd lost a lot of weight. I've been lifting weights and whatnot. So you know, pretty good shot. He was with about 4 or 5 guys, and I saw him beelining straight for me. And so I'm not gonna stick around and say, "Hey, what's up, buddy? How's life?" I dipped out the side door, hopped in the car, and went home. You see, because in Los Angeles, gang culture is beef never dies, and anybody can get a pass. It doesn't matter if you a rap star, a law student, doesn't matter who you are. You can get it. Everybody has a day. Police, civilians, gangsters, and that's the difference between LA. There's no getting, anybody can get it.
Wow.
Yeah, at any time. So, yeah, that's the last time I saw Fat Terrell.
Man, we here today with Mr. Dennis Spurling.
Yeah.
Book, Rules to Live By, How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflict World. Y'all can call in. The number is 832-649-8406. If y'all got any questions for Mr. Dennis, call in and ask. And remember, our topic for the day is the initiator required to pay for the date? Because so many women is mad at these dudes because these women say, "Oh, let's go get something to eat." When they get there, he ain't paying.
What you got on it, baby?
She paying.
You ain't got nothing on it?
I thought you supposed to pay. You the man, and the man supposed to pay. But
we equal. We equal now.
You invited me out here. I ain't saying nothing about I was hungry. But anyway,
oh, man.
Rules to Live By, man.
And it's 3 volumes. That's the black book, there's a gold book, and a white book. And so we address 3 different styles of conflict. Because it's not just dealing, this book is about physical conflict. This is about stuff that can happen to you in the real world. But what about up here? See, the physical conflict can lead to conflict in your mind. Oh man, I gotta fight that dude. Oh man. Woo, so that can be on your mind.
Yeah.
You see, in the spiritual conflict, that tears down your soul. So all of it, you know, your child is, you know, over here, and your child is struggling, and you know, or the woman is giving you a hard time, or you can't seem to find peace. All of that, man, plays in a part. And so that's what I talk about. I take you on a journey. And I'm not telling you that the journey never ends. The journey is continuous. See, you're on the path of peace of mind and happiness, but there are things that will arise that can disturb your peace. And so until you actually learn how to resolve conflict, you can never have peace. Whether it be physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual conflict. You gotta learn how to
and the greatest conflict to resolve is freedom.
Yeah. You could be sitting in prison and being at peace, or you could be sitting in a palace and living in hell.
Man, and this one that really got me. God's favor is not necessarily fair.
That's true. That's very true.
But one more thing, if God does something for me, it has to be fair, and they interpreting fair as good, and should be in God's favor is not necessarily fair.
In that particular rule, I use the story of Cain and Abel. And both of them were brothers. And both of them were pretty much equally situated. I mean, they're twin brothers. They come from, not twin, but they brothers. They come from Adam and Eve, you know. And for some reason, God favored Abel over Cain. And Cain became jealous of that, and he slew Abel. And so we asked ourselves, why is God such a fair God? Why? Who said God is supposed to be fair? Who said life is supposed to be fair?
The preacher.
Any preacher that said they need to have his
I'm just telling you what comes
his
from the
robe
pulpit.
taken back.
I'm telling you, in that case, a lot of them need to be up there naked.
Yeah.
They need to get their robes off of them.
Yeah.
But a lot of people hear from the pulpit that God is fair.
Well, let's look at the example of the Israelites. Clearly, if God said, I want y'all to go out and slaughter everybody in this land, right down to the sheep and the cows and animals, is that fair to the people who are being slaughtered?
No.
Okay. If the lion eats the baby lamb, is that fair to the baby lamb?
No, because the lamb is down left without, especially if he eats them all, the lamb is left alone.
But is it fair to the lion's cubs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ain't that something? Isn't that something?
Yeah, they have to eat.
You see what just happened right there? You start seeing things from the diametrically opposed side point of view. And in this book, I actually talk about the God's eye view I talk about the king's eye view, which is the king sees things you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the God's eye view in volume 3 when I talk about that spiritual aspect. There's some things you just don't understand. So why question God's favor? Or for those of you who may not be so biblically inclined, why question what the universe, what happens in the universe?
Frank say fair or just?
Well, we say that our God is a just God, but fairness and justice are not the same thing.
Vast difference. Vast difference. So Frank, I think you got your answer.
Yeah.
God is just.
Yeah.
Not always fair.
Yeah, that's not necessarily fair. But again, instead of being concerned about what God does for other people, which can disturb your peace of mind and happiness, because oh man, Keisha and them got a brand new BMW.
And let me add this, and I'm glad you said that because.
And now you hating on Keisha.
I'm not trying to get into a debate about anything.
Right.
There's many lessons come out of the Cain and Abel situation, and people say one of the reasons God favored one over the other was because of his faith.
Right.
And you know, it's so easy for his brother to look at and say, "Oh man, he got sheep and cattle. All I got is vegetables.
Right.
They got a Benz. I'm on the bus."
Right.
And that can build up some resentment, some hatred, some animosity, create some conflicting with you, and turn your whole heaven into hell.
Now whose fault is that?
That's yours.
Right. So who has to get rid of that?
You.
Right. Otherwise, you're gonna be living in hell.
Yeah.
You see? So Cain could have looked at it like, okay, next time it'll be my turn. He could have looked at it like that and keep going and had his brother and still had his brother not be cast out and be cursed for what he did. But instead he looked at it the way that what? Caused him his downfall. And so now, you know, what I ask folks to do is try to help resolve conflict as opposed to create more conflict. And there's always different paths. Because
but everybody have in their brain what they feel resolves conflict. Then as bad as it is, so many people feel good about being angry at somebody.
They do. And I say that if
and to them that's okay, I fixed it.
Right. And in my book, one of my rules is if you are fueled by anger, at some point you will run out of fuel and you will be lost. And I was at that point. And that's why
you was angry?
That's why those books came about. Because I'd used anger to fuel my rise to success. I got the Ivy League degrees. I was making $400,000 or $500,000 a year practicing law. I had the house and the cars, everything, and I was still angry. And then I ran out of anger because at some point it's like, well, I got everything. What am I angry about? And now I'm lost. Because instead of fueling my life on love, happiness, giving back, peace, I was angry. I used my anger, but it tore apart my soul and it fed those monsters that were in me. And so now what I've done is I've subdued those monsters with love, understanding, peace, happiness, and that's what you have to do.
But how easy is that for a person who's always experienced a twisted love?
Well, that's why you got to read the books. Because what you guys are telling, see what I'm telling you in this book.
Let me say this here.
Yeah.
Also, now I know you say read the book. I'm a reader. I'm also a writer.
Okay.
But you made the statement about the misunderstanding about what happened with Nipsey Hussle.
Right.
You said even if he did put it in a DVD, we wouldn't watch it anyway.
Right.
You put it in the book. We ain't gonna read it anyway.
Then most people aren't. They're not. Most people are not gonna pick this. The world is not gonna pick this book up.
We don't have time. According to us.
According to us. Well, unfortunately, let me say it like this. Hopefully the people that are listening to your broadcast will take some of the things that I'm saying and some of the things that we're discussing and get some understanding.
Oh, they are, because they chime in saying something.
Some of the people that will listen may purchase the book. There are other people that will purchase it and may read the books. And then there are others who will purchase it, read it for understanding, and apply it to their lives. And that's really all we can ask. But my purpose in writing these books was to bring this information forth, because that also helped me bring peace of mind. This is my thanking my Creator for helping me find this peace of mind and happiness, or the path to peace of mind and happiness. And this gift from that Most High God is for other people. And so this was my purpose. See, this also helped me find peace of mind and happiness. Because there's nothing, and you're a writer, so there's nothing more fulfilling than learning who you are. Know thyself, and then you know everything else around you. And so writing that book helped me understand who I am. So what I'm trying to do in these writings is help people understand who they are.
And that I think that is a serious tragedy to go through this life and not know who you are. Because until you know who you are, you'll never know what you want. You'll never know you can impact.
I'll ask you a simple question. What makes you happy?
And you know, so many people they would not answer that.
I'm asking you, Jimmy.
Jimmy the Square Guy.
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy is doing what I love. And I think that's the best form of freedom for me, just to be free.
So freedom.
Yeah, freedom makes me happy.
I agree. And freedom to do what?
Whatever I choose to do. In which I'm not going to do anything that's, to tear anybody down. Because I came from a bad past myself.
Right.
And now that I've grew up, I just grew older, but I just didn't grow older, but I grew up. I'm not a boy in a man's frame.
Right.
I became a man now.
Yeah.
Like my dad used to tell me, you born a male.
Right.
A man is something that you have to become.
So that age, you reach that age of enlightenment.
And I noticed one thing, that what makes me happy is doing the things that I enjoy to do. And like now, I enjoy meeting people like you. I enjoy doing interviews and writing books and just putting stories together and getting out, meeting people. That's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
Learning makes me happy.
Yeah. So.
But a lot of people can't answer that question.
No, they can't, and that is one of those crucial questions that every person should ask himself. What makes me happy? And if you can't answer that question, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, then you have not accepted your truth. So what I'd like for you all to do as an exercise is look in the mirror and ask yourself tonight, what makes me happy? That simple question. And you begin at that point to begin to learn who you are.
Y'all heard that? The man asking you to do one simple exercise. When you look in the mirror and put that makeup on, and put that lace front on, then all that lipstick, and dudes y'all in the mirror brushing y'all hair that 10,000 times trying to get them waves, just ask yourself, what makes you happy?
Right.
And see how long it takes you to find out, or see how long it takes you to answer that question.
Yeah, and when you say what makes you happy, it's probably not a new car. It's probably not $1 million in the bank. It's probably something else. And I'm saying probably, but I'm saying that it's going to be something else.
Something very, very simple. Something that you least expect.
It's going to be something like freedom. It's going to be something like the ability to live my life on my own terms, which represents freedom. You can also begin to discuss not with yourself, but people look at you think you're crazy, but the persons, places, and things and circumstances that interfere with your happiness. So what I'm telling you is, you can begin to say, well, okay, I may not know what makes me happy, but I know who makes me unhappy. I know going to this place or this job or this house makes me unhappy. I know that having this car note that I can't afford that I bought to try to impress this girl makes me unhappy. I know that this particular career, this particular person, when people do this, makes me unhappy. And then by process of elimination, you can say, well, these may be the things that makes me happy. And that's a start. Separate yourself from the persons, places, things, and circumstances that interfere with your peace of mind and happiness. That's one of those rules in the book.
Wow. Because, again, a lot of times people throw things out there, but they don't explain how to get to it.
Right.
And you just simplify it.
Yeah.
Since you don't know what makes you happy, just look at the things that don't make you happy.
That interfere with your peace of mind and happiness. Start with that. Is it that relative? Is it your stepmom? Is it your dad?
And that's a good story because
Yeah.
with me, going around certain people really disturbs me.
Yeah, and so at that point, you have to absent yourself from your emotions. You have to say, you know what? That person doesn't make me happy. So I'm going to not be around there. Because in this world that we live in, we're all connected in some regard. We're all family. So if you don't like your brother, go find another brother. That's hard to say, right? Sounds bad. Oh my God, let me get worse. If you don't like your mother, go find another mother. If you don't like your father, go find another father. If you don't like your family, go find another family. Because we're all connected, and if these people are interfering with your peace of mind and happiness, perhaps you shouldn't be with them. Because see, all skin folk ain't kin folk. Is that what they say?
That what Public Enemy said.
That's what they say. So what that means to me, and it sounds cold, but you came into this world alone and you're going to leave alone. So why be around people that interfere with your peace of mind and happiness and make your life a living hell? There are some women and men who were sexually assaulted as little children, and every time they see that auntie or uncle or family friend, it interferes with their peace of mind and happiness.
They cringe.
But they always have to go to the family reunion.
Why?
Because that's their family, and society says you have to show up there. But what if I tell you, no, you don't?
Now let me ask you this, because you said in your book, you said that when conflict arises, never always choose sides with your family, because when the conflict is over, you don't have a place to go to.
When you're dealing with an outsider, and there's a war.
Let me ask you this, can an outsider be the one that sexually molested them? Though they're a blood family,
Right.
Can that person be considered as an outsider?
That person is your family. And that's just the reality of it.
But now I could be misunderstanding. You said if you don't like your family, go find you another one.
I'm telling you, if you don't like your family, if you don't like a friend, go be where you are happy. Don't be with people who disturb your peace of mind and happiness. Now, as far as dealing with that rule of wars, and this situation happened when I was hanging out between the ages of about 10 years old, about 14 and 15. I would hang out with the local Crips that down the street. We would shoot craps, we'd go hang out. That was my friends. Remember, I came from a situation as an abused child. I was powerless to protect myself. So when I had the opportunity to hang out with these gangsters, I recognized, wow, this is power.
Is that when you were thrown out the house? I mean, you was kicked out, you ran away or something like that.
This was I was a big fight at my adopted father's house. My adopted father's wife at the time and her brothers, basically they treated me pretty bad. And so there was a fight. I was 10, one of them was 18, the other one was maybe, or 17, the other one was maybe 14. They beat me up pretty bad. She came home, she put me out. A couple of weeks later, my father adopted father record, it's just too much trouble having you here. So he sent me back home to live in South Central LA. So at that point, coming from that situation, feeling powerless and helpless, I started hanging with the local gangsters. And I saw what power felt they had. We would drive down the street, people would avert their eyes not to look at us. Because I was hanging with the gangsters, even though I was 10, 11 years old. And I see how intoxicating that was. So I just kept hanging out with them. And these are my guys. If I had a situation in the schoolyard, I could always call up B, C, and all the NHTs, and they would come up there, and there wouldn't be no problems after that. So I had backup finally. I had that power. It was one phone call away. But there was a time when my Uncle Slim and these gentlemen had a conflict. And there was a big fight outside of my grandmother's house, our family home. And I wasn't there at the time. I think I was away watching the Super Bowl in another town with the rest of the family. And there was this big fight that happened. So now I'm in a situation where I got to choose between my family and the homies from the block who had my back. Uncle Slim, in recounting the story, he said, yeah, man, I did this, and there's a story. I'll tell you what Uncle Slim did, and y'all gonna have to read for yourself, but Uncle Slim put in work on the homies. And Uncle Slim said, in the fight before that happened, he said, I know if my nephew was there, he would have had my back. And he looked me in my eyes and said, I know if my nephew was there, he would have my back, knowing that I've been hanging around with the
homies.
And so at that point, I wasn't called to make that decision at that time. But I knew, had I been there and I made the wrong decision, i.e. sided with the homies down the street instead of my family, I'd have been ostracized. Because they're strangers and this is family, irrespective of what they've done for me.
Mm-hmm.
See, with family beef, you deal with family beef internally. You don't take that to the streets. Because see, when people see that you have weakness in your family,
or Facebook,
don't
take it to
because when
Facebook.
people see that you have weakness in your family, they will use that as an opportunity to destroy you all. The only strong is your weakest link. And so family is one thing. You deal with family conflict internally.
Mm-hmm.
If it's some outsiders in the family, you deal with the outsiders and then you come chastise your family about what they did. But you never side with outsiders against the family when there's a war. When the war is over, you can whoop your cousin's butt. You see what I'm saying? You can talk reckless there. I can't believe you got me in that foolishness. Yeah, man, I'm sorry about that. Look at this. I got a black eye fooling around with you.
I'm going to give you one to match it.
Right. And so that's how that deal was. So in the situation where you talked about where you have a person who's taking advantage of one of the young ones, that's something first for the family to deal with. And in the society where we live in, you call the police and you get rid of that problem.
Yeah, because, it's saying, especially in black families, that supposed to be a thing that kept quiet.
Right. I talk about that in my book.
And if Uncle Ray Ray did something to little Keisha, they want to put it on hush-hush.
Right.
What happens in his house stays in his house.
Right.
And like you said, now she had to go to the family reunion, and she had to come and look at this dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rather than the family being a family unit and supportive of her
right.
and dealing with Uncle Ray Ray, they hush. And,
right.
and that quietness encouraged Uncle Ray Ray to do somebody else like that.
Yeah. In chapter 2 of my book, I kind of talk about that having to do with my grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
There was a rumor in my family that my grandpa had slept with my grandma and her oldest daughter, who was at the time maybe 16 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the 1920s or 30s, 16 to 17 was a grown woman. And my grandmother wasn't that much older than her because she was probably about 28, 29.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a rumor that he had slept with both the mama and the daughter. And that reverberated throughout the generations because remember, my grandmother and my mother, my mother my auntie has a different father than my mother. So even though they're sisters, they're only half sisters. So you got 2 lines of family.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this conflict on this one side of my family with my other side of my family because your grandpa slept with or molested or sexually assaulted our grandmother. So there's that conflict that always existed. And I talk about it in the book. And I have to say that, my grandfather may or may not have done it. He had that reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to put myself in his situation at the time, and I try to explain that. There's really no explaining it. And I explain to people, he was a bad man that had good qualities. Because one thing...
Was he a bad man or he made bad choices?
He was a bad man.
And why you say he was a bad man?
Because he and his brothers probably killed 50 or 60 people in Mississippi.
He was a bad man.
He was a bad man. He was a gambler. He was a bad man. He was abusive to my grandmother. He was a stone cold killer.
Mm-hmm.
He would kill you. He was so bad that people would not want to ride in the car with him. He is one of those precursors to all the killers that we have killing people in LA and Chicago and Houston and Detroit and New York right now. He was one of the progenitors, he and his brothers and all the other people around there, of that culture. So it hasn't stopped. And this is what I write about. Because these are the people that raised my parents and my uncles. And these are the people, at least my mother's side. And these are the people that raised your parents, and your uncles and aunties, and all these folks. So this is where that culture started. Fresh out of slavery. Of course they didn't value black lives. Why would they? My uncles were beaten. This is my and when I say my uncles, I'm referring to my great uncles. They were beaten in croquet sacks. They were held upside down and beaten croquet sacks. Sometimes they would literally be tortured as though they were slaves, because see, their parents were slaves.
Man, look here.
And
man,
so
this time, I hate because this time the Zoom,
cool,
and you steady going, you got
man. check out the books. Just get them to buy the books, man. It's an adventure, man.
Rules to live by. Here it is
Yeah.
right here. Rules to live by. Dennis Spurling. How to maintain peace of mind and happiness in a world of conflict or conflict world.
Yeah.
Man, tell them how to get it.
You can go on Amazon, or you can simply you can call my office. You can follow me on Facebook. You can call my office at 713-229-0770. And again, I'm a car accident lawyer, so make sure you don't tell them you're a car accident, they'll send you to another person. But if you say, hey, I want to buy Mr. Spurling's books, they'll put you in contact with the young lady who's in charge of putting the packages together. We have some music for you. We have T-shirts. Got all kinds of stuff.
And I got a T-shirt and some music and a book, and it's nice.
Yeah, man.
So give them that phone number one more time, man.
You can reach us at 713-229-0770, and that's in Houston, Texas. And we got plenty of books. Right now, we are selling these books at about $1,000 a month, and we are running out quick. But call now, we'll get them. We'll have to get some new ones printed, but we got something for you. 713-229-0770. Rules to live by.
And y'all remember, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, right here at Harvani Studios, the Naked Truth, your political hip hop outlet. And I'm gonna leave y'all with the word of encouragement for today. Life is God's gift to you, and what you do with it is your gift to God. Give a good gift. Man, I thank you, Mr. Spurling, for coming through, man. I know I wasn't got you last time, but you was on business meeting.
Man. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Wish I could have went with you. You know, but you say you win. I was like, oh my God, I need to go over there.
Oh, man, you don't come over here, man.
But we'll see y'all again on Wednesday. We got the show Single Dads coming up. We got some single dads on here, just like we had the single moms. And we do got some good stories. All men out there is not deadbeat dads. And we will have some on here. So we'll see y'all Wednesday. Again, we thank y'all for tuning in. And that's our show.
What you think, bro?
Man, y'all don't get mine autographed.
Oh, yeah.
Fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, caliente, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, it's hot, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, hot, fuego, caliente, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, caliente, fuego, hot, fuego, fuego, it's hot, fuego, caliente.
Yeah, but see, like, I got all the rules